All right, so we're live. My name is Alan C. I'm the CEO of New Kingdom Entertainment. Uh, I don't know everything, but I do know a lot of things. I am perfectly imperfect. I'm a work in progress. Today, I'm going to interview a gentleman that I've known since I was very young. We worked together uh, a couple of summers. I was fortunate to work with this gentleman uh, as my summer job. Actually, I worked 2 summers with him putting on plays. He actually mentored me in that aspect. Asked me to join the Screen Actor Guild quite a few times, which I should have took that advice. I think about it now all the time. You asked me, you suggested that I do that more than once. So first, we're going to watch your promo for your one-man show that you're going to do. Well, you'll explain it better when you talk. But I thought it was apropos. This is Black History Month, and you're doing Frederick Douglass, which I've heard some things about him recently. You know, we studied him as a kid. I did study him as a kid, but I heard some things about him recently, and I watched part of your thing, and I look forward to seeing the whole show when you do the whole show. So without further ado, I'm going to play the video first, and then we're going to talk. Let me play the video.
Compromise. Did I really make any dip back on my life? It's the progress and the compromises that I think about. Was there too little? The progress justify the compromise. Now that perhaps the lesson of a lifetime. It's a lesson that I learned not too long ago. I thought I knew all the answers. Well, if modern readers want more action, that's easy enough. I have been chased by lynching parties, been whipped, beaten, shot at. I've had my ribs and hands broken, my skull fractured twice. Action! Ugh, I can give it. It's a terrible, a hard piece of solid leather. And it's the strength of say quite honestly. The sparkle in my eye faded, began to dull. Lo and behold, energy was transformed into a shuffling beast. Where are you? Where are you, my beautiful ship that will carry me to free? From the sea of white faces, a cry echoed back in unison.
A man! A man!
Shall such a man ever again be sent back to slavery from the soil of old Massachusetts?
No! Never!
These thousand white strangers leapt to their feet and cheered for me through this appalling competition. Progress and compromise. Difference in this world. A few years later, as I was watching my grandson Joseph playing, the thought occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, in this world.
It was so emotional. He really captured.
I think that was good. That was good. You did that. It wasn't so serious, but yet you laughed too at the same time.
He did it in a play, and he was right on point.
People learned something tonight. Was it?
I thought I was seeing Frederick in person.
That's what's important. That's what it's all about. It's change. You know?
I wish more people could have seen it.
Right.
And I think more people should see it.
That's right.
Yeah, the screen.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So I was very impressed with that little promo. The makeup and the whole presentation was I thought it was very good. Like I said, I look forward to seeing the whole show. This is Melvin Johnson, and I've looked up to you for many years. You don't know I've been following you. You may not know that, but I've been following you. Um, your the biggest thing I know that you did was the moon thing. Total Recall. Total Recall. And I don't know how I found out that you were in that movie, and that you pretty much played a major role in that movie. But
Mhm.
I've watched it several times just to see you, just to
Uh,
see you. And I've seen some of your commercials. Like I remember the Converse commercial that you had. I think you did a couple of. I think you was on Fresh Prince and a few other sitcoms.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know your whole repertoire, your whole stage dichotomy, everything that you've done. But we were talking. I called you up because I wanted to see if you had any pictures from when we did our plays back in the day, and
Nice.
through that we got to talking, and we had some very serious discussions. At this time, I'd like you to talk. I'm gonna ask you some other questions, but I'd like you to talk now and introduce yourself, and let the people know, especially people of Queensbridge, because what I found out, and one of the reasons that I really wanted to interview was I told somebody that we have a lot of legends in Queensbridge,
Hmm.
and they were saying no, we don't. Like, we don't have no Queensbridge legends, and I'm like, yes, we do. We have a lot of Queensbridge legends. You just don't know about them, and you don't really understand what a legend is.
Hmm.
We have many legends, and you're one of them.
Hmm.
In my book, you're definitely one of the Queensbridge legends, and definitely a Queensbridge old timer, and someone to emulate and look up to. But you introduce yourself, and tell people about yourself.
Sure. Like Alan said, my name is Mel Johnson Jr., Melvin. When I was growing up in Queensbridge, I grew up in the 40 side of 12th Street, and uh, I really, really, it shaped my life in such a positive way. Uh, I, the first time I was ever on stage as a kid was in the community center there. They taught us
Oh,
how to
really?
tap.
I didn't know that.
Yes. I took
Okay.
tap dancing lessons at the center. His name was Mr. Lindo. I'll never forget it. And and my parents were there for years and years after I left. They were there until 1997. So Queensbridge really molded, they say the formative years. Queens was part of that. And not just part of it, it was a major part of that. So when I went away to school, when I went to Hofstra University. I went to High School of Performing Arts
Did you?
here in New York City,
Okay.
um, and then I went to Hofstra University out on Long Island. And uh, when I graduated, I started doing, working. And then one of the guys that I grew up with was telling me about this project that they were doing with the youth of Queensbridge that QualiCap was starting, and in the summer times, in which the kids got paid to really supposedly work programs, but they were doing taking classes, doing work, doing workshops, all those things. And they asked me if I would conduct a drama workshop, and I said sure. Get a chance to work with the kids in the projects. Uh, so I came back, and one of my favorite little stories is that I said I'm doing a drama workshop, and we were in 111, and all the various jobs said, who's doing what? They raised their hand, who's doing what? And they said, who's doing the drama program? And these were all girls raised their hand, and there were no guys. And then at the very end, they said, "Who has no progress?" And there was this line of boys in the back. They raised their hand. They said, "We don't have anything to do." And I looked, I said, "Okay, I'll take those guys and they'll be in my drama program." And they looked at each other and they said, "Drama? Yeah."
I was one of them. I was one of them.
I know. And I said, "What am I letting myself into?" But we had an incredible time.
We did.
And I think one of the most important things, I don't even know if you knew this, Alan. I'm sure I told you. You know, when I agreed to do it, I said I was going to take the kids to a movie, take them to a Broadway show, and do a show. I said, "Now, that's what I want to do. Can I do that?" And they said, "Yes." So during the program, it's the summertime, you know, it wasn't all, all work and no play. Took them to a movie. I think it was Shaft. And
Yeah, it was. It was. It was. Exactly. I was trying to remember. Yeah, it was Shaft. It
it
was
was
Shaft.
Shaft. And
Absolutely.
then the play was going to be at the very end. But when it got around time to taking them to a Broadway show, one of my supervisors said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have the money for that." I said, "Excuse me, you agreed to do it." And they said, "Well," and so I took it upon myself just to go to the head of QualiCap, who had to have probably been this young black man now, but he was probably in his 30s, and I was, right out of school. And I said, "Listen, I agreed to do this. I asked for three things, and they said that we can do it." And I said, "You want to know some of the problems we have with the youth of today and always? If you tell them you're going to do something, follow through. Don't promise them the world, but if you say you're going to do something, do what you say you're going to do." And to this man's credit, he came up with the money, and I took our group to see the Me Nobody Knows on Broadway. And it was definitely the first time all of them had seen a Broadway show.
Absolutely.
And
It was my very first time.
yeah, and I had friends in the show. We met them after they came out of the stage door. And the first play we did was a play called "And We Own the Night," and it was a young play. And that was the first time they'd done a show in the community center in years. They had not done something there, and we did that. And then the next year we did the Me Nobody Knows, our own version of that. And show had the show comprised of poems with music, and I had our group write our own poems, and we sang the songs from the show. It was great. And this group stuck together and came back every year. And I have to say, you know, I was just thinking of getting from point A to point B, and I didn't realize the influence it was having on most of these kids. I mean, they went on to do some wonderful things. Witness Allen right here, forming this thing. So when he reached out to me years ago, I said, "Alan, do what you got to do. You're doing great." I've heard from many of the kids in that group. One young woman I ran into years later, and I said, "How did you do?" She says, "Well, I went to Hofstra University." I said, "Oh, I went to Hofstra." She said, "Of course, that's why I went." I had
Okay.
no idea. It was wonderful. So, and then after that, I was fortunate to start working first in New York in children's theater, then regional theater, then off Broadway, then Broadway. And then I went to Los Angeles and started doing film and television. The life of the actor.
Well, what is some of your other credits? Other were you in any other major films other than Total Recall?
Total Recall was the biggest. I did some smaller independent movies. My first love has always been stage. When I was out in
Right.
LA, I did a lot of sitcoms, Designing Women, Fresh Prince, uh, get Hattie, Hattie, I forget what her show was. Give Me a Break. There were a lot of those shows, and then when I came here just recently, I did Jessica Jones and one of those I forget just recently. But I did a lot of Broadway shows. There's some of my shows on the wall here. I did The
Oh,
Lion
okay,
King,
okay, okay.
Newbie.
You was in the Lion King too, right?
Yeah, I was in The Lion King
Yeah,
playing
I thought you.
Sasha.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, and when you do a TV series or a TV show, if your guest starts a week, the show's only going to last for so long. But if you're doing a Broadway show, you're rehearsing every day, you're doing 8 performances a week, you have a family that you're working with, you become family. It's a great, great experience. And how the Frederick Douglass piece came to be, I was doing a show out in Los Angeles, and I started directing out there. I did that show, The Rink, with one of the guys was on Seinfeld. Jason Alexander, he played George on Seinfeld.
Yeah,
So I was directing him out in Los Angeles in his
really.
one-man show. And another friend saw it and asked me to direct his one-man show. And then he's going to say, he said, I want to write a show for you. I said, really? And he wrote the Frederick Douglass piece. And so with that piece, I've been doing it around the country.
Okay.
And they book it a great deal in the Midwest. When it comes here, I'll definitely let you know, Alan. I'd like to.
Absolutely.
Since
Absolutely.
we're producing it. So we haven't done it here yet, but it's in the works, as we say.
Well, I look forward to it. Aren't you doing something right now?
Yeah, we have these things called staged readings of new pieces that everyone hopes that will, practically every one of those shows on the wall started at this point, where you
Okay.
get together a cast, the writers, the producers, you sit around a table, you learn the music, you work on the script, and I'm right in the midst of doing that right now with a new musical called Hi, My Name is Ben, based on a real guy who grew up on the Upper East Side. I do that these 2 weeks, and then I have a week off, and then I do another new stage reading for another musical called Everybody Comes to Elaine's, about another East Side restaurant up on the East Side that Woody Allen used to go to, and all those things. And the guy who's directing that is a good friend of mine, and he had Newsies on Broadway, Grease on Broadway as directors and stuff like that. So that's how these things go, and you never know if they're going to make it to Broadway, but this is where they all start.
Yeah.
All of them. Every one of these shows goes through this process.
Yeah.
And then it's a roll of the dice after that.
If I remember, I think you took us to an off Broadway play also.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what that was.
I mean, I can't remember either, but I remember because it was a very big distinction between Broadway and off Broadway.
I think it was down at the Public Theater, if I'm remembering correctly, when it was down there. But that was my intention, to expose you guys to all of these, to all of this, because that's the way you know what's out there, what's possible. And I actually, my 20, I went to junior high school 204. Which junior high school did you go to?
I went to 125 for a second. They kicked me out my first year there in the seventh grade. Yeah, they sent me to a 600 school because me and the same people that you were working with during the summer.
Right.
When we wasn't working with you, we was hood rats. We was hoodlums.
Oh, listen.
We was seriously hoodlums. And so we ran around and like I said, my first year of junior high school, I got kicked out. They sent me to a 600 school, and for all intents and purposes, I never really went back to school after that. I'm self-taught.
It was really that was the interesting thing. All you guys hadn't chosen a program, didn't want.
No, because we didn't really want to do it. We wanted to check, but we really wasn't trying to do anything. And then you came along and I'm gonna tell you, I was scared to death. Every time we went on stage, I was scared to death. But it got easier and easier. And like I said, I wish to this day I had joined the Screen Actor Guild and went on some auditions and stuff like that. Because who knows where that would have led to. And you suggested it to me more than once. I always remember that, and I always like say, it's like when I got clean. I was a drug addict. I was, being in the streets. I got caught up in drugs and stuff like that. When I got clean, one of the things they said is the suggestions that you don't take that sometimes changes your life. Like you have to learn how to take suggestions, how to take direction. And that's part of being in the theater and everything, taking direction, taking suggestions, and like I wouldn't be doing this here right now, and I'm also in the music business. I tried to
Right.
stay behind the scenes. I didn't really want to come out myself, but it was suggested to me many times. Like you suggested for me to join Screen Out. It was suggested many times that I start creating music to produce. I was executive producer, but I wasn't actually playing no instruments or singing or nothing like that. I was just putting people together in the studio, which I still do.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't be doing this right now. And I became a pretty good speaker in Narcotics Anonymous. But your training, your beginning is what led to that. If it not been for you, I might not have ever been able to do that. I might not be doing this now. I might not have ever done the music thing. You gave me the courage somewhat to be able to stand out in front of people and talk, because I was a very shy kid. Even though I was wild, I hid it by being bad as hell, but I was shy, I was scared, and I hid that by trying to pretend to be as bad and tough as and I really wasn't. Most of the guys I hang out was much better than I was and much tougher than I was. But I faked it till I made it. And
Sure,
you know
sure.
how you try to fit in, and peer pressure
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. And we were talking about that because one of the reasons why I decided to start this podcast, we were talking about the fact that I realized how real the school to prison pipeline is.
Hmm.
How our kids are not being serviced like they should be in our communities, in our schools and stuff like that. We don't have as many outlets as we did, and I know as you did, and you telling me now is the things that you did in the center that I didn't realize that wasn't even available when we came along. But we still had a lot of things to do. We had PAL. We had the Reese Center. We had Hank Carter. I'm gonna introduce Hank Carter. You remember Hank Carter, right?
Oh, absolutely. He was really
Yes.
close to my brother. Yeah.
I'm going to interview him soon too, about all the great things that he's done. And this is what I say about our community. There's a lot. Like right now, probably people don't even realize the chief of police of New York City is a black female
Hmm.
from Queensbridge.
Wow, I didn't
Okay,
realize that.
no, she is
Yeah,
black
that's
female from
fantastic.
Queensbridge, and you know we have Ron Artist, who won a NBA championship from
Sure.
Queensbridge. Have so many. At one time, there were like 15 kids from Queensbridge playing major college basketball at one time.
Oh,
15. It was 15 different kids. So we have a lot of talent that comes out of Queensbridge. If I sat here, we could do a whole nother show on that. If I sat out
oh,
here right now,
absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
what I wanted to discuss is how did you see the difference then to now of what the opportunity that kids have in our communities? I don't see it. I don't see it right now. I have to pay anywhere from $500 to $1,000 for my kids to compete to participate in sports. When we was growing up, we didn't have to pay. We didn't have to pay. I don't remember paying nothing.
Alan,
Just showing
I
up.
was just having this conversation. I was saying when I grew up, this is grew up in the city. I said listen, I had the best education that they had in the country because New York City at that time had the best schools. Now they still have the best high schools, but the way to get into them has changed so drastically. I mean, when I was growing up, busing was instituted. I
Yeah.
was on the PS4, and that PS4 like broke down. I mean, it literally collapsed. It was so old. And they bused me to 166, which is up by the Museum of Motion Pictures up there by Kaufman Studios. I'm living in Queensbridge, right? I mean Queensview, and it's really close to 204. The museum is over there by 204. So they bused me up there, and then I went to 204, the junior high school. Now, it was just based on where you live. Yes, they insisted that the schools be integrated, so you had this, you were getting this education. So you went there and you had these opportunities. Then my English teacher, I wanted in the second grade. I did the second grade play at PS4 called The Rosy Cheek Ghost. I played Professor Gruesome. I'll never forget it. It was Halloween. It was a Halloween play. So when I did that thing just for the class. It wasn't even on stage. Something clicked for me, and I knew I wanted to do this. I didn't know what this was. I didn't know what an actor was, but I knew I wanted to perform. And when I got to junior high school, they were doing school plays, just like they had sports. I learned how to play the trombone. There was music
It's
programs.
not, you don't have that now.
All of that was going on. And my junior high school teacher, I finally got into the school play. He said, there's a high school just for if you want to be an actor. I said, you're kidding me. And I didn't even know what a monologue was. I didn't know any of that stuff. And this high school teacher, Mr. Rochelle, I'll never forget his name, he coached me. That's why it's so important to have these guys. Showed me how to work on my monologue. My parents didn't know. And when I told them I wanted to go to performing arts, they said no, because they thought I wouldn't be able to get into college. And this teacher went to my parents, came to our home and told my parents they got to let me go to that school. I mean, so that's what went on back then.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have that now. These
And so
teachers are so worried about covering their behinds
that's
that
right.
they are not. My son goes to a middle school, and all the administrators are black. Most of the administrators in the school are black. As a matter of fact, the head of the school her name is Doctor something something. I don't even know her name because I don't really want to know her name because she pissed me off. We had a meeting, and the way she talked to me and the condensation, even though I had sent a memo before we had the meeting, stipulating what I wanted to talk about at that meeting, she was very dismissive.
Mm.
And I was sitting there, black principal, black assistant principal, black teacher coordinator, parent teacher coordinator. And I was disrespected in that room. I was not, my concerns was not addressed. They were dismissed. She just said, we're moving on. And I'm like, moving on from where? We haven't even discussed something. What are you talking about? We're moving on. She says, well, we're moving on. We're going to talk about what's going to happen in the future. But I said, I'm here to talk about the past. You're all accusing my son of something. And they actually interrogated my son and made him sign a confession. Believe it. Like, I'm like, are y'all the police? Are y'all teachers or are y'all police? And there's a policy in New York City, what they call, and it's not just in New York City, it's all over the country. You call it zero tolerance.
Right.
In schools, in our schools now. And that's how they effectuate this jail to prison pipeline. Because when we went to school, we had many different ways to get punished if we misbehaved. We got detention, we was kept after school, we might be made to clean up the chalkboards, or maybe even clean up the bathrooms. I went to a 600 school where they made you do a lot of stuff.
Sure.
But now it's detention. I mean, it's suspension or jail. Like it's not everything's suspension. It's like they are purposely trying to have children miss days and get behind, and then you wonder why they're behind. Well, you're suspending them for every little thing that they do. So they losing days and days and days. Like my son's been suspended like twice in a short span of time. This is his first year in middle school. He hasn't even finished the first half of the year. Well, he did finish the first half of the year. They're back there in the second half now. But he got in trouble so many times for so many little stupid things. And I was like, it's like they set these kids up to work a minimum wage job or go to jail. You either going to work a minimum wage job when you get out of here, because we're not going to teach you much. You're not going to learn that much here. If you're not diligent and your family is not diligent, you're not going to learn that much here. So only thing you're going to be prepared for is a minimum wage job or jail. They're not preparing these kids for college. They're not preparing them for working in the high school. I mean, working in the real world. They're not teaching them skills. Like we used to learn trades. We used to learn wood shopping and metal shopping.
Absolutely.
They don't have. They
I
don't
learned
have
all of that stuff.
They
And
don't have none.
Yes, they cut the funding. They cut all. No extracurricular. But just like you said, I took woodworking. I took metal thing. I have my little box that I made in junior high school.
You still have it. You still
I
have
still
it.
have my little slide box that I had.
Okay.
And I still have these.
I
things.
made one of them too. Yeah.
Yes, with rivets in there and all that stuff. I mean, these programs. I own a trombone that my parents gave me because I played the trombone in junior high school. I mean, they cut out the music programs. They cut out all the extracurricular programs. The school system is completely segregated now. Back, they're just it boggles the mind that this has happened, but it's just symptomatic of what's going on all over the place, and it's just really unfortunate. I mean, on the one hand, and it's major, Queensbridge is located in probably the most valuable property in the city right now.
Absolutely.
I mean,
It's the middle of the city. I always used to say, because we used to walk, because we were wild, we would walk anywhere. And we could walk to Manhattan. We could walk out to Jamaica. We could walk to Brooklyn. We could walk to the Bronx if we wanted. If we was really bold. And Queensbridge is centrally located. We're 20 minutes from everywhere.
Everything.
20 minutes from everywhere.
I didn't want to go no place that wasn't more than one stop away from that. I mean, I knew that if I got on the subway at 8:05, I would be in my seat at Performing Arts at 8:20. In my seat, leaving my house at 8:05. Get on the subway at 8:05. That's how close we were. One step in that. And that's still, I mean, if they could get everybody out of Queensbridge, they would.
They would. Absolutely.
Yeah, I knew that. But, they're working on it. It's when I was growing up there, I didn't get the huge sense. Well, there was no real gun violence. There was always gangs.
No, we didn't have access. That's another issue that really burns, because they try to say like kids are worse now than they were when we were growing up. And that's just not true. Even the statistics, I've been looking at all the statistics on all these things that we're talking about right now. And the things that they say are not accurate. They're not true. The only difference between kids now and us, we stayed outside playing constantly. We were busy. We wasn't outside playing.
That's right.
We were doing things. And we did not have access to guns like they do now. We did not have that. And even if we did, the thought of us killing each other,
never.
I mean, we would fight.
Alan, I grew up my entire life in Queensbridge, never heard a gun go off. Never heard one when I was growing up there. I'm older than you. So,
yes.
There was a transition going on. Now, they were fighting. There were the gangs and everything. But basically, that didn't happen within the projects. It happened outside the projects. If you were going to go to St. Rita's Bazaar, you were kicking those guys behind,
Or Astoria.
Right, or Astoria. That. But if you lived in the projects, you lived in the project. You're part of the projects. and you know, and there was no humongous drug problem. I mean, times have changed, and when you know, it was like I was saying, the community center. I did the Boy Scouts there. I learned how to tap dance there. My parents were, you know, they were really intricately involved in the Reese Community Center. I mean, the community center was vibrant. We had concerts. We had everything going
Remember
on.
the African dancers and stuff? The
Yeah,
African, yeah.
Mr. Francis, you know, Mr. Johnny and
They don't
Tony.
do none of that no more. They
And
don't do none of that.
when we did our shows, that was the first time they used it in years.
Yeah.
They asked me where you want to do it. I said, well, look, there's a stage in the community center. And the parents were free. They packed that place when we did
They
it.
really did. They really look forward to that. When we started doing it, they really did look forward to that, and they really did support us. They really did show up. They really
So,
did.
you know, it's it's convenient. They've got a subway in the corner now. I mean,
Yeah, on 21st Street, you ain't got to walk to the plaza.
on
No.
my block. It's on my block. You know, on 40th 12th Street. I said, what? And every time I drive down 21st Street to get to my house here, I turn to the left and I can see my bedroom window right through that opening over there by the subway. Because
Yeah.
I could look out from my bedroom window to 21st Street. You know, way you couldn't see anything, but you knew it was
Yeah.
out there. You know, it actually was my parents' bedroom. But I, you know, I really loved growing up in Queensbridge. It
I
was
did too.
ideal for me. And
For
us,
all the
community.
for all the bad, there was so much good. There was so much unity. There was so much camaraderie. Like people really truly cared about each other and looked out for each other.
Absolutely.
Like everybody knew my mama. And I remember being little. My father. I was going to say you brought up the Boy Scouts. Remember they had the Navy cadets. They had
Yes.
the well, my father was head of the Ranger Cadets. I don't know if you remember the Ranger Cadets. That was my father, Charles Cole's Billy what they used to call him, Colonel Bill. Colonel Bill.
Right.
That's my father.
I forgot the cadets.
Yes, and you know we had all those things, and you know back then I really didn't appreciate it, but I look back at it now and I'm saying, wow, we had a lot of stuff to keep us out of trouble. Even though we still found ways to get in trouble, we had a lot of things to keep us out of trouble. And these kids today just they don't have it. They're
They
not.
don't have it. And that's why these community programs are so important. Just like you said, are working together. You know, I wasn't doing it I was doing it because I like doing it. You guys were going to have a good time. It was summertime. We had a good time. We were being productive, doing something you guys had never done before, doing a play. None of you guys had acted before.
No.
And we did that.
Acted out, and we acted out.
I mean, you know, and it's so interesting that it should bring us together. I don't know what possessed me to turn around and say, okay, you guys are going to be in my drama group. And then you know, and it worked out. I mean, you had a good time. We were productive, and you guys kept coming back year after year.
Yeah. That's why I'm so bummed that there's no pictures. And like I told you, the one picture that I have, my daughter sent it to me not too long ago, and she cut everybody. So I don't think she did it, but whoever did it cut everybody else out the picture. Just got me in silhouette. And I'm like, it's no telling. You probably was in that picture. It's no telling because I'm sitting on the stage and I'm like acting up, you know, like clowning. And I'm saying, I know Danny was there. I know Willie was probably there. I know Shots was probably there. You remember Shots?
Yes.
Shots was something else. And I know, you know, all these people were probably there, and I don't see it. Like, and I'm saying I know they were there.
Do a little research. You know, Alan, taking pictures wasn't a big thing back then because nobody had their phones, you know, and you know you had to have a camera.
It was complicated. It was complicated.
It was much more complicated. And I used to like taking pictures. But like I said, I think the friend of mine who built that set for us took pictures. So I'm going to reach out to him. I just got a letter from him and his wife in Florida. They're in Florida, and I'm going to ask him because I know he took pictures because he showed them to me.
Okay.
So I'm going to search for those. Or
Well, I sure would like to see some. I really because I was a bad kid and like I said I was a hooligan. I didn't take many pictures.
right.
Because I didn't want the police to be able to walk around with a picture of me showing it to me. You seen this guy?
Yeah.
That was the thinking. So I didn't take school pictures. As a teenager, I didn't take no pictures. The only pictures that person that had a picture was my brother, and he's probably the one who took that picture that I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And he lost all his pictures. He had so many pictures of people in Queensbridge that it was unreal. All the pictures that he had. He still takes. My brother Victor. He still takes a lot of pictures. He's still the mayor of Queensbridge. He still takes a lot of pictures with everybody and everything.
Well, I mean, and I'm hoping that uh, they say that Queensbridge is on an upswing, crime is down. You know, I couldn't believe they broke through and put elevators on every floor. I mean,
Yeah,
it took the
that's
sixth
that was
floor.
amazing.
That was a major thing.
Amazing, yeah,
That was a major thing.
yeah.
I lucked out. I was living on the fifth floor, so I had an elevator on my floor.
Mm.
But um, you, it was really something. People were very loyal. They the old timers, those reunions that they used to organize in the summertime. I used to come back to them. I brought my parents. They were just incredible, you know, because everybody was loyal. We had some great people that came out of Queensbridge. I was
Yes.
talking to one of my friends who's in Atlanta, who lived on 10th Street, grew up on 10th Street before he moved to Ravenswood. His family moved to Ravenswood. He was the first black kid in the Air Force Academy, became a fighter pilot, then went on and decided he wanted to be a doctor. He became the team doctor for the the Olympic baseball team when it was in Atlanta. And then he came out and decided he wanted to be in the movies and became an extra. I just spoke to him on the phone. I told him
He's from Queensbridge,
from Queensbridge.
and he did
Yeah,
all of that.
did
And don't
all of that.
I never heard. I never heard of it. I never heard of it.
Yeah, because he moved when he was in like junior high school because we were friends in junior high school.
Oh.
Everybody had a gang. There was the meatball gang. There was this. They called them so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My little social club was called the Cavalier Social Club, and it was just about throwing parties. I mean,
Yeah.
we all had parties, and this shows you how times have changed. I'll never
Yes.
forget it. We had a party. Our parents didn't blink an eye because that party would be packed. And when you left that party, that apartment looked exactly like it did before you went in there and had that party. I mean, people just I mean, and you went to the Meatball Gang's party, you came to the Cavalier Soldier Club party, you went to this party, and you went in there and you partied, and the parents were absolutely confident that everything was going to be okay. And it was.
Yeah. It better be.
It had better be. Because there was no such thing as timeout. Timeout, your butt was kicked, whipped. I mean, when they talk about discipline, I laugh. Everybody thought my mother was so sweet and wonderful, and she was. But in today's time, my mother and every other mother would have been under the jail. Are you kidding me? You talking
Absolutely.
about
Hey, my mother used to. It was times that whatever was handy was coming at me. I was gonna get hit with it, or it was gonna be thrown at me. And I deserve. And for the most part, I deserved it because I was wild.
That was the other thing you did not, as quote unquote good. We were children, and we all acted up. My mother, we had the belt. My mother had a belt that she took the buckle off, and if my brother and I were bad, she would ask either one of us to go get the
Go
belt.
get the belt.
And that's because we all ran to get the belt. And then, but my father worked all during the day. My father never hit us. My mother was the one. She was a disciplinarian. So my father didn't really know about the belt. So one Christmas, we got new bicycles. My father was a mechanic. He was a butcher by day and a mechanic on the weekends up at the Esso
They're
station.
working 2 jobs. My father too.
111, So he was very meticulous with it, and he wanted a belt to wrap around the spokes, that thing that held the spokes together so there would be no dust. My brother and I looked at each other and went and got the belt.
The belt.
And my father cut it up, put it around there because he didn't know.
He didn't know.
And so when my mother asked for a belt again, we went, well, Daddy cut it up.
Belt was gone.
She had to laugh herself.
Yeah, we used to hide the belts. We used to hide the belts in my house too.
I mean,
that's funny. That's really funny.
That was one of the funny things about the Medea movies. I remember that time when Medea, that little girl, was giving him, Medea lip, and he reached her there and got the belt out. I said, "You don't give your parents lip. You didn't." I mean, it was different times. Different times.
Let me ask you something, because you just brought up Tyler Perry. What is your opinion of him? Because I asked you that because in the beginning I wasn't too fond of him and his plays and him putting the dress on and all that. And cause I'm gonna ask you about Dave Chappelle too. And one of the things that they say, like when they make the comedians put on dresses to take some of their power away from them. They make them wear the dress. But as I've gotten older and I've studied and I've watched Tyler Perry move, like nobody made him wear the dress. That was his decision. That was
he was creating a character. You see, I don't know Tyler Perry or Dave Chappelle, but I know their work, and Tyler Perry grew up just like everybody else. He was poor, couldn't get anything done, but he grew up the way we grew up. He grew up poor. I don't know whether it's in Project or wherever, and he saw that character. So in his creativity, and he was an actor, and he only wrote for Black people. He did not write for white people. So I have to give Tyler Perry that. He only wrote for us, and the humor, some people will look at it and say, well, it's stereotypical, da, 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 da. But he said this isn't Amos and Andy. Amos and Andy was written by white people, done in blackface. I am writing this because it is telling our story and we can laugh at this, and because it's us. And, because in the beginning, I didn't want to watch Tyler Perry because, Medea, and I was going,
so you kind of felt the same way.
Yeah, in the beginning, because I'm not a huge comedy fan, but I didn't understand his backstory. I just didn't like Medea. I didn't like the idea. I said, what is, drag, blah, blah, blah. But that's a character that really works.
Absolutely.
That we need.
And it'll wear on you. I like Medea now. I like that. I liked what he did with it. I like what he's doing. I liked all the Black people he put to work.
And that's what he did. So what he did was Medea became very popular among the Black folks. White producers wanted nothing to do with Tyler Perry. Nothing.
Yeah, at first.
At first. So, but he had to have distribution. You can make all you want if you ain't getting it into the theaters. That's the whole thing. So he had to, nobody wanted, because he was doing it all. He was, sitting, writing it, gathering it. It's all black. It's black story. Da, da, no white
Well,
people.
his first plays, he put on his self. He was
That's right.
living in his car,
And
and
his, living in his car. And then when he started making these videos, he was selling them from his car. And then he was building up the thing. He couldn't get on Broadway. He was doing it at the Beacon Theater. He was taking his shows around. And then Lionsgate, which was at this time not even a second-rate company, they were like his last. He went to Lionsgate. He heard this company would distribute, and they decided to distribute his first movie, and it became a mega hit. And Lionsgate became all of a sudden a viable thing, and then all these other companies then said, Tyler Perry. He goes, "Are you kidding me?
yeah, now everybody want
I'm
to
going
jump on
to
it.
stay with Lionsgate to distribute my movies." And then they became so sick. Every one of his films opened at #1 with black audiences spending their money and making it #1 in the box office. And then white people, of course, always want to come see it.
Of course.
That. And then, but what did he then do again? Went to Atlanta and has built one of the biggest studios.
It's incredible. It's incredible. What he has accomplished is incredible.
Incredible.
It
Every
really is.
one of those studios are named after a black famous entertainer person. Harry Belafonte, Cheryl, and big sound stages that big things can be done.
You just brought up something else. We just lost Sidney Poitier.
Just lost Sidney.
What a towering.
I mean, what he was my idea when I was growing up. I mean, whenever he came out, and like I said, I'll never forget when I was a kid and he won that Academy Award. You weren't even an idea in your mother's.
Was that for Mr. Tibbs?
No, it was for the Lilies of the Field.
Oh, Lily of Fields. That's right.
Lilies of the Field. And
That's right.
so, it was a big thing that a black person was nominated. And then I was living in Queensbridge, kid, and the Academy Awards were in the summertime at the time. And when he won the Academy Award, you could hear through the windows the yell went up in Queensbridge, because every one of us was watching to see what was going on.
Absolutely.
And he was sitting there by himself. There's not another black person in that audience. and he was, I was reading his biography, vitally aware of the roles that he chose and how he represented himself.
Absolutely. You could tell.
Keenly aware.
Yeah, I said you could tell he had a regalness about himself. Like, like I'll never forget, like Mr. Tibbs. Like I say, you said,
That's right.
Call me Mr. Tibbs. Like the way he.
What do they call you? But what do they call you for? They call me Mr. Tibbs.
That's what you call me, Mr. Tibbs. It's just his bearing was just phenomenal. Now let me ask you a question. So, are you familiar with the controversy with Dave Chappelle?
I am. I did not see what they were talking about. Like
you didn't see his last show?
No, I didn't see his last show. I am not a big stand-up comedian fan. The black, white, blue, green. It's just not my genre. So I didn't see it. So just in a short thing, tell me what it was about. I don't even know.
Okay, so my take on it is he did some transgender jokes, and he did them in another show, and he got a lot of backlash for it. So he doubled down on his last show, and he did some more of them. And he tried to explain to people, it was like nobody was trying to hear, because they were saying you're not being funny, you're trying to be a teacher or whatever, And I'm like, okay, when you're a comedian, you're kind of both. You need to be funny, but you need to be telling a story. You need to be, you You need to have a dialogue that goes somewhere, that says something for you to be, it's like for me to be successful. And he tried to explain to people. He says, when I was doing all these nigger jokes,
Mm-hmm.
nigga this, nigga that, and let's be plain, when you say nigga, that's black people. You talking about black people. You say nigga, you talking about black person. Nobody said anything. He was the biggest hit on Comedy Central. He was the biggest hit in the world. Nobody had nothing to say. They didn't try to cancel him. But the minute he started making jokes about gay people and transgender, he got all this backlash. And he's saying, I don't understand it. Why don't y'all have that energy when I'm saying these nigga jokes? Like when I'm making jokes about black folks, it's okay. And that's part of the reason why he left. You know, he left that money on the table with Comedy Central, because they were pushing him to do more nigga jokes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a matter of fact, basically do them exclusively. And he says he realized, it came a time when he realized they were no longer laughing with him. They started to laugh at him.
That has always been the way. I mean, like I said, I didn't see it, so I can't judge on that. But what you've described is what the history of black comedy has always been. I was up in this, at this comedy week, upstate New York, and they happened to have the black woman who's on Saturday Night Live as a regular now, and the black film critic for public radio, and so public television. I forget his name and her name, because I'm not a comedy guy, but it was fascinating to hear her talk. And he did a talk, like a TED talk, on black comedians on television, black comedy on television, historically talking about it. And, you know, these were black actors that were actors. So when, you know, started out with Amos and Andy, radio, white people. You can't put white folks in blackface on television. So they got black actors to do it in the beginning. That was the first time I'd ever seen a black person on television.
Amos and Andy.
And we watched it. Fuck, we knew it was outrageous. But again, you know, that was forerunner of Medea. That's what we were watching. However, that was still the white person's view of black people. So you went through that. You went through Beulah. You went through, you know, everybody was a maid or a lightning or Stephen Fetchit, and in the movies and da-da-da-da-da. The first real change was Julia with Diane Carroll.
Absolutely.
Came on there.
Yeah.
And the white people, first words out of their mouths was, "Oh, that's unrealistic." They said that. But they didn't say that when Marlo Thomas was doing That Girl on television, an unemployed actress living in this Upper East Side apartment. They didn't say anything about that. As a nurse, oh, well, that's unrealistic that she's going to be able to take her, you know, but that's what's going on. And they went through, you know, the shows, and when it got to the 70s, when there were all of those black shows on television, comedies, he didn't do them all. He picked out certain ones. And he did Good Times. Now, Good Times was supposed to take place in the projects, in Queensbridge, let's say. And everyone, Esther Roll was the focus behind that. She was the one that got that done because she was a spin-off from Maude. She was Maude's maid. And that's how she came to have her own show, because she was that popular. So she goes, I'm only going to do this if we have a complete black family. Working father, mother, the whole thing. This is Norman Lear, a white man.
Yeah.
All the writers, white. So they started out that way. And this is I knew that, but then they brought on J.J. Walker, Dynamite,
Clown.
a
Clown.
clown. They brought on the Stephen Fetchit character. And white people just loved that.
Oh yeah.
John Amos quit the show. And then ultimately Esther Roll quit the show. I mean, nothing against J.J. Watt. He's just trying to make it up. But he
Yeah,
was
he's
not an
just doing.
actor,
Yeah.
But they showed clips where he was literally just waiting for him to deliver his comedy line, because he wasn't acting. He was just waiting to come in, and I couldn't watch it. I just couldn't watch it, because you had all these great actors out there creating these great characters, and you had JJ just waiting to say dynamite, and white people just loving it. So, so you have that, and it's interesting. They have this documentary on Bill Cosby now that I haven't watched yet. And I was not a huge fan of his long before this.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I met him personally, and I just got
a bad vibe.
He was too full of himself, and I just went,
Well, at one time he was that dude.
What he did on television cannot be denied.
No, you can't.
Cannot be denied.
And that's the crazy thing about, it seems, with our celebrities. Like, it seems like early in their careers they're one type of person, and then later in their careers it's like they forget where they came from and who they are.
People get power and they think that, and he was of a different time when everybody was getting away with it. All these people are falling now. But
yeah.
Not just Bill Cosby. You have all these people, people in power.
But they ain't all going to jail.
That's right. Well, if they didn't throw Harvey Weinstein in jail, they better not have thrown Bill Cosby in jail without throwing Harvey Weinstein in jail first. I mean, he was.
Because let me say this. I don't want to cut you off, but I have like a strong feeling towards Bill Cosby, because I didn't like his cornbread speech. I didn't like the fact, and then come to find out, you were saying we're not living up to the bargain, and you were doing what you were doing. I have a serious problem with that.
He was so sanctimonious with his crap, and then doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so, but you see, I got that from him. But he was able to get it done, and then
he did.
I'm sure Tyler Perry learned by watching what he.
Yeah, he brought. You can't take away from that. He definitely brought a very positive image.
Because when in the '80s, when he was doing it, he was the #1 TV show on television, not just on the network, on television.
Period. Full stop.
Showing a family that, white people just didn't believe black people did that. So it wasn't that, Good Times was, yes, we grew up in the projects, but there were a whole bunch of black people that grew up just like the Huxtables. A huge group of people that white people don't like to acknowledge. So
it's the mainstream media. It's ridiculous how they manipulate us and manipulate situations. And if you're not reading between the lines, if you're not digging down deeper, you really won't know what's going on.
That's right.
And I sit back and like, I watch people. I'm on Facebook a lot, watching people's comments, because I'm trying to figure out how people think. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I have an issue with the vaccine. I'm not trying to tell anybody what they should do or shouldn't do concerning the vaccine. But my thing is, if you grew up here in the United States and you went to school here, you were vaccinated. You were vaccinated for many things, and I remember when we used to catch all those things. We used to catch measles, chicken pox, mumps, whooping cough, scarlet fever. Your day, you could have caught polio.
Polio.
And I'm raising two kids by myself right now. I've been raising them by myself for about 4 or 5 years now. At my age,
Sure.
it's a blessing. It's a blessing because it's. I've had to take care of myself and try to stay as young as possible to keep up with these children.
Absolutely.
But they don't get sick. They haven't had anything. Not had near one of those diseases.
Mm-hmm.
They've had nothing. They've caught nothing. We all caught AIDS. AIDS. Excuse me. God forbid. We all caught the COVID. I caught it first in the summer. I got vaccinated though. I was vaccinated, and I caught it in the summer. Scared to death. It was a big. I was scared to death that I was gonna spread the disease to these kids, because I kept them in. Like when we had I took them out of school early, and I kept my kids isolated for the first 5 months of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and because I didn't want them to catch it. They couldn't get vaccinated, and I was so glad when I was able to get vaccinated. But I got vaccinated. I didn't spread it to them. So my son gets COVID about 3 weeks later. He doesn't spread it to us either, because he's vaccinated at this time.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's vaccinated. She caught it a week or two ago, also vaccinated. So she didn't spread it to us. We didn't catch it. We're catching COVID from outside of our house.
Absolutely.
And the reason why is because everybody's not being vaccinated. It's
Well,
the same thing.
Alan, you said, there were all of those measles, and every one of those things that you've said, the reason why they don't exist anymore is because we were vaccinated against them. Because that's how they were eradicated. Ain't nobody screaming and hollering about it back then. And everyone eradicated. Polio. I have my little polio thing right here. Measles. We were vaccinated. That's how it was eradicated. And now all of a sudden, people are going, oh, it causes autism. Oh, this, that. And I'm sorry. I take no truck with it. I know this is your program and all this stuff, but I cannot. When they come up with that crap, I said, I don't want to hear it. And the vast amount of people who are ending up in the hospitals, seriously ill, are the unvaccinated. If you get it while you're vaccinated, you're just going to get a mild little cough.
That's all we. I got a little sick, and my children, they show no signs whatsoever. It's unbelievable. I look at them like, ain't nothing wrong with y'all, but y'all got this, but y'all ain't. At least when I did catch. I had one day when I was really in here shivering and everything. One day. It was just one day.
You didn't end up in the hospital. You didn't end up in the hospital on a ventilator or something like that. So that's what I have to say about, all of that. And, but I'm with you on that. And it's,
we don't, let me say this, because it just seems like you said, we were more educated. I didn't know what you said about the city school. I didn't know we had some of the best schools. I don't know why I didn't know that.
That the high school our schools, national integration. Martin Luther King wanted to get integrated, so we were integrated. New York City always had specialized high schools. Always.
Okay.
If you wanted to do anything, they still exist, but the way to get in them has become just all crazy. I don't even know how.
Oh, it was kind of crazy when I was coming up, because I got into Bronx Science. I didn't go, but I got into Bronx Science. I had to take a test. I had to go.
You have to take a test, and I think you should. There's specialized high schools. You can get in, but what happened was, as always, there wasn't this thing, well, I have the money to send my kids to be tutored up the wazoo to get into this high school. It was really, if you were studying in 204, that's what you did, and you got into one of these specialized high schools, or 126, and you got into one. Now people with money are taking their private school kids from the elementary schools and then wanting them to get into Bronx and Stuyvesant and Edison and Brooklyn Tech and Performing Arts and Fashion Institute. Because if you have any desire in the world, there is a specialized aviation. I mean, nursing, Julia Richmond, FIP, fashion.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a specialized
School
free
for it.
high school free that offers the best education in that specific area.
Yeah.
Boys high for sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was and that was a school that
And now that's boys and girls. Let's say it's
now
boys and girls now.
But when it was, but boys high was turning out all the basketball players,
Yeah.
stars.
Yeah.
So New York City was and then schools, cities around the country took those models and started having their own specialized schools. But New York was the first. LaGuardia, the mayor, he started all of these things, all of these programs. And so they still exist and they still have that excellence, but they're becoming more segregated than anything in the world because of the opportunities that the wealthy can do. Economically, we're just getting further and further apart.
I'm really gonna have to explore that because you're giving me some information that didn't consider. You're giving me something to consider that I didn't consider.
Yeah.
But that's something else I'm gonna have to look into. Um, we're pretty much done. I don't like to take these conversations too soon because people's attention spans are short, so I don't like.
That's
to go
right.
Too...
I mean, we could go on all night long.
Yes, we could.
Great. And hopefully you'll edit it again. But down the line, let's do it again because this was we could talk about some other things.
We absolutely will, and I've been meaning to do this for a lot of years. I did one maybe almost 10 years ago, and we didn't have YouTube wasn't big like it is now, and we didn't have Facebook and all that, so we were doing public access, and we did one show, and we didn't do any more, and I was always saying, I really want to do this, and I kept on putting it off because like in the last year, I felt like the market was saturated. I felt like everybody and his mama, just like with the music business, everybody and his mama is a rapper and got a record and looking for a deal and everything. And it seems like with the podcast, same thing is going on here. But then again, like it's like reinventing the wheel. Right. Your version of it, even though everybody else may be doing it, they're not going to do it like you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
And when I discovered Zoom and realized, I brought a bunch, you wouldn't believe it, I brought a bunch of equipment. I got a bunch of cameras in here and switches and all kind of boom mics and stuff like that and all kind of lights and stuff like that. Because I have a recording studio. I'm in my house and I have a recording studio in the back, full-blown recording studio. So I was going to fix up the studio. And I didn't realize I didn't need all that. Right. All I needed was Zoom and a mic. And I could do this here. And that's the beauty of what's going on right now because prior to this, I always needed somebody to help me produce some content, engineer, a producer, and everything like that. And right now, I'm doing it all. I'm Tyler Perry. I'm producing, directing, and writing. This is all me. I don't need nobody's permission. I don't have to wait on nobody to do this. And then also, because of where I grew up at, there is enough people right where I grew up with to fill my interview thing for the next year.
Oh, absolutely. And I was so glad you reached out, Alan. I really, really am. I've enjoyed this. And I do hope that, you will be able to fit it in and I can do it again amongst all the other stars from Queensbridge,
Well, we will definitely do it again.
Or what do they call him? Meta Peace? Meta World?
Yeah, Meta World Peace. Ron, our artist, he gets mad because I still call him Ron. It's funny you would bring him up, and I was talking about the music thing because early on, we kind of had a little feud over an artist. He kind of took one of my artists that I had in the beginning when I started the music business, and I was trying to talk to him and say we need to work together. We shouldn't be fighting, battling each other. We should be working together. But I guess at that time he was starting his basketball career. He was that dude and everything like that. I'm nobody, I don't really have a track record or nothing. So he's like, yeah, whatever, I got this. I don't really need your help. But guess what? It didn't go nowhere. So maybe you did need my help. Maybe if you had worked with, maybe we both would be a lot further on than we are. Maybe, who knows? But that being said, that's one of the issues too. Is that they always talk about the black agenda.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, we have too many agendas. If we all got on one agenda, maybe we could get a lot more done. We have too many agendas. Everybody's doing their own thing instead of everybody coming together and working together. And that's what's going on in Queensbridge too. Because I'm about to interview the last president of the Queensbridge Association, and you wouldn't believe the intrigue that was involved with the new election and the new president. You wouldn't believe the intrigue there was for the Queensbridge Tennis Association president. You wouldn't believe the intrigue that was.
I'm sure.
You wouldn't believe it. It's unbelievable. And right now, April, you might know April Simpson. She was the head of and she done a very good job because she really made Queensbridge known. Like she rings bells. I mention her name anywhere in the city, they know who I'm talking about.
Sure.
And that's amazing. She's just a young, girl from Queensbridge that runs a tennis association there, but she's made herself so well known and connected with so many of the right people that she has clout that these people wouldn't even understand. And
Didn't the president just come in here and go to Queensbridge? I mean,
absolutely, absolutely.
I mean,
the mayor's been here. Nobody comes to New York. Nobody, if they trying to go to black people and trying to, they come to Queensbridge. They
right.
come. They make sure. What's Hillary was here? Not Hillary. No, I think Hillary did come here. Real quick on some sneak something, and then the whitehead dude, the real progressive dude that they call a communist. I can't think of his name right now. He came here, but the thing that they do is they come here. They go to River Park, and ain't nothing but white people at the event. They don't invite the black. They don't invite the people from the projects. And we had a real issue with that, and she addressed that many times. She was very outspoken and addressed it many times, and I need to interview her because I need to hear all this intrigue that was going on. That come on, dude. The tennis association president was it really that serious?
Well, what there 30,000 people in Queensbridge.
I used to tell people when I was down south, I say, this little town. I said I lived in a project that had more people in it than this little town.
That's
I said,
right.
Little podunk town. Yo, wouldn't imagine. But it was so good talking to you.
Great.
And seeing you. Because the last time I think I saw you was at your mother's funeral.
Yeah.
I think that's the last time I saw you in person. Or I might have caught you after that at one of the. Did you?
Oh, maybe at one of the reunions. But the last I took my mother to the last reunion that I went to. I think.
Yeah.
We sent a Riccadello's.
Yeah, Ricardo's. It's closed.
I know.
They didn't survive the pandemic.
I drive down 29th Avenue to get on the tri-ride.
Yeah. That's kind of a sad thing. Okay. But look, I really enjoyed talking to you, and thanks for doing this interview with me. And great talking to you, and we'll do it again. We will definitely do it again. So until then, you take care of yourself and be blessed. I know you are blessed because of the things that you've done in your life. Be blessed, and we will speak again.
Perfect. Okie dokie.
All right. Take it easy. I'm going to sign off. You have a good night.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.